You're about to watch what we call an extended clip of the Young Turks, and the reality is it's somewhere in the middle. It's a little longer than our YouTube clips, but it's actually shorter than the whole 2-hour show, which you can get if you're a member. You can get it ad-free, and make sure you catch every news story we do that day. You're gonna love it as a full show. That's at tytnetwork.com/join. Thanks for watching. All right, back on the Young Turks, host Cenk Uygur here. Larry Vetter writes in, looks like it's Cohen's turn in the barrel, to paraphrase Roger Stone. Nice reference there, Larry. And Sean of the Dead says, if China wanted to really play hardball, they would seize all Ivanka Trump's clothing company's assets and close down any hotels there. Let us whisper of a dream. Don't think they wouldn't, so let's see how far Trump pushes them. And then how much he howls if they do that. But the Chinese are smart. They know that if they go after Trump's business, he will take that 1,000 times more seriously than any damage that they would do to America's economy, because that involves him and not you guys. All right, let's go over here and do some more stories. So there's a story out in the Washington Post about the relationship between Donald Trump and his chief of staff, John Kelly. Now, lately it's been quite rocky, and John Kelly is trying to impose order, and of course that is problematic when you have Trump as president, who is basically King Joffrey. So he's got a massive temper, he's got a huge ego to deal with, very thin skin, and he acts like a child. So this story has all of that. First of all, on his temper and his thin skin, apparently he was furious at John Kelly on the issue of immigration because of something he said on Fox News, and of course that's the only thing that Donald Trump pays attention to, so let's explain that. After Kelly told Fox News Channel's Brett Baier in a January interview that Trump's immigration views had not been, quote, fully informed during the campaign and had since, quote, evolved, the president berated Kelly in the Oval Office, his shouts so loud they could be heard through the doors. Now, a normal president, I don't think, yells at his chief of staff in that way. Maybe in the old days they used to do that, but it does seem a bit childish. You could just fire him. So there's a lot of different ways to get your chief of staff to be aligned with you rather than having a temper tantrum, but that's Donald Trump. Apparently had a similar one when Nielsen was put as the Department of Homeland Security head, and that was a suggestion by John Kelly that was then criticized by other conservatives, likely Fox News. And so Trump, of course, hadn't asked anything about the person he was appointing, didn't know a thing about her, took John Kelly's advice and just appointed her. And so then when he found out certain things he apparently didn't like, he apparently yelled at Kelly, "You didn't tell me she was an effing George W. Bush person. By the way, you child, you could have asked, you're his boss, but you don't care to do your homework, and so all you want to do is lash out at people if Fox News says something unkind about you, or Ann Coulter, or fill in the blank about any conservative pundits who now apparently run the country." So, of course, this has led to a huge rift, and this conflict has been going on for some time. So Washington Post further reports both his credibility, referring to Kelly, and his influence have been severely diminished, administration officials said. A clear decline for the retired 4-star Marine Corps general who arrived with a reputation for integrity and a mandate to bring order to a chaotic West Wing. So since he has brought some degree of order, the child doesn't like it. He doesn't like being told no, and he doesn't want to eat his vegetables, and he just wants strawberry milk at all times. So he's like, why are you bringing order? I don't like it. So he's now diminished his own chief of staff's role. This official explained that Kelly initially viewed his job as babysitting, but now feels less of a need to be omnipresent. While Trump, who once considered Kelly a security blanket, feels increasingly emboldened to act alone. God help him. All right, I added that last part. So these are sources all within the White House and allies of the president. Washington Post spoke to 16 different folks here for this story. So unsurprising that Kelly viewed the job as one of babysitting, because we have a man-child for president, and he's getting awfully tired of being bossed around by man with a tiny, tiny intellect, let alone the other problems that he's got. And now Trump, since again he's Joffrey, thinks, I got this. I know how to do presidenting now. John Kelly, step aside. I don't need that security blanket anymore. Good luck with that approach. In fact, the Post reports that Kelly has threatened to resign on multiple occasions.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of On the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, you must unlearn what you have learned. And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
It's sort of a weekly event, one senior White House official quipped, though officials explained his declarations as expressions of momentary frustration. I don't believe that at all. Remember, those are White House sources, and they have different agendas, and you should keep that in mind. And some are pro-Kelly, some are against Kelly, and are parts of the different factions of the White House. So you have to use your own reason and the rest of our experience with the Trump White House to determine what you think is correct and not correct. Now we go to Axios for further context on how serious the rift is. Kelly blew up at Trump in an Oval Office meeting that day, which was very late in March. While walking back to his office, muttered he was going to quit. So this is a separate report from the Washington Post one, backing up a similar storyline. So they explain the details of what happened that day. Kelly packed up some personal belongings, though I'm told that wasn't necessarily because he was walking out. He was fired up enough that colleagues got allies to call in to calm him down. And at one point, DHS Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen, the person I was referring to earlier, perhaps the person in the administration he trusts most, came over to talk him off the ledge. So I got news for you. A person isn't kidding about quitting or isn't doing it as a gesture or a momentary frustration if they pack up their personal belongings and have to be talked off a ledge. That means he was actually going to quit. And who could blame him? Who could tolerate this child constantly yelling at you? I mean, to add insult to injury, if you work with him, it's got to be blindingly obvious how low his intellect is. And for this idiot of idiots to order you around and to embarrass and humiliate you nonstop has got to be maddening. So I blame John Kelly for a lot of things, and he is a right-winger, and I don't agree with him on almost any of the policy issues. But I can't blame him for getting frustrated with King Joffrey. Finally, this is my favorite part of the story. Apparently, they had to make policy issues into a childlike game for Donald Trump to pay attention. So the Post explains, under Kelly's watch, the president now has policy time. Sounds a little bit like nap time or playtime. So he has policy time. Sessions once or twice a day where advisors present and argue their competing views over a specific issue with Trump presiding. Oh, that's so embarrassing. Oh, God. Look, if a president wants to have a policy discussion and there's two legitimate factions within his White House and he wants to do that in an organized way, probably once in a blue moon to hash out some interesting, complexities of an issue, well, that actually would be great. In order to get him to focus on policy, they have to do like a reality show, basically. Okay, it'll be Bob versus Susie, and you get to vote one of them out at the end. And don't worry, you're the host, you're presiding over this, and we'll call it Policy Time with the President. Oh, okay, this is fun, then I'll pay attention. It has got to be dangerous for the world to have the most powerful man on earth, and unfortunately, in this case, oftentimes it's fortunate, but right now it's definitely unfortunate, that the President of the United States is the most powerful man on earth. And he's an absolute child. That has got to be a danger to the world. He's deeply unstable, and God knows what he's going to do next. And certainly his chief of staff doesn't. Okay. Now, let's go to conservatives and friends of Donald Trump and what they're up to lately. Okay. Now, Ted Nugent is a well-known right-winger. He's not a very well-known musician. He had some pervy songs a long time ago that Mike Huckabee liked to sing with him, former governor of Arkansas, about how they lust after the young daughter of a neighbor. And of course, if you go back further, Ted Nugent probably best known for crapping his pants to get out of the Vietnam War. He said it, I didn't. Later realizing how deeply embarrassing it is that he actually caked his pants for a week so they would think he was crazy to get out of Vietnam. He bragged about it initially.
At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your activity more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today.
And he's I got out of the war. They realize, hey, you're a coward. You love to go around with your guns and talk about how you're going to kill everybody. But it turns out you're the world's biggest coward. You had plenty of chance to kill people in Vietnam. And what'd you do? You crapped your pants. Okay, so now we know this about Ted Nugent. There's a new twist coming up. But I wanted to remind you of all of his previous insults too, because it's relevant to this story. He had called Obama, for example, a subhuman mongrel. And he had also said, Obama, he's a piece of crap. I told him to suck on my machine gun. Hey, Hillary, you might want to ride one of these into the sunset, again referring to his weapons, you worthless bitch. Okay, so that's Ted Nugent. But after one of the shootings, you might wonder which shooting actually bothered Ted Nugent. Seems to be fairly pro-shooting, at least as long as he's not on the receiving end. As he could have been in Vietnam, but chose not to, and chose not to represent our country. Have I mentioned that? Anyway, no, it was when the Republican legislator got shot, Steve Scalise, that he was concerned and called for civility. Now, I'm going to play that for you, and then we're going to see today if he lived up to that call. So this is what he had said about how he's going to tone it down. Watch.
Reevaluated my approach, even though I'm a street fighter. I'm from Detroit. Yeah. We use language in the street. We use certain harsh terms. But at the tender age of 69, my wife has convinced me that I just can't use those harsh terms. I cannot, and I will not. And I encourage even my friends / enemy on the left in the Democrat and liberal world that we have got to be civil to each other. I'm going to take a deep breath, and I am going to back it down, and if it gets fiery, if it gets hateful, I'm going away. I'm not going to engage in that kind of hateful rhetoric anymore.
Yeah, good one. Good one. So he has implored people to be civil to each other, and he's not going to engage in hateful rhetoric. By the way, my favorite part was, I'm a street fighter from Detroit. You had a chance to be a fighter in the jungles. Apparently you weren't that kind of fighter. What kind of street fighter craps his pants at the idea of a fight? Anyway, now let me show you a little bit about what Ted Nugent said about the victims of another shooting. That was, of course, the shooting in Parkland. So a lot of the young kids there have spoken out against gun violence, and Nugent apparently doesn't like that. Now, Nugent's about to say something worse too, but first, very recently, this is what he said about those kids.
The lies from the left, the lies from these poor, mushy-brained children who have been fed lies and parrot the lies, they are actually committing spiritual suicide because everything they recommend will cause more death and mayhem. The dumbing down of America is manifested in the cultural deprivation of our academia that have taught these kids the lies, media that have prodded and encouraged and provided these kids lies. I really feel sorry for them because it's not only ignorant and dangerously stupid, but it's soulless. These to attack the good law-abiding families of America when well-known, predictable murderers commit these horrors is deep into the category of soulless. These poor children, I'm afraid to say, and it hurts me to say this, but the evidence is irrefutable, they have no soul.
Wow. The kids that were the victims of the shooting in Parkland, Florida have no soul. And he apparently has irrefutable evidence of that. And Ted Nugent talking about the dumbing down of America and being dangerously stupid. The irony is thick with that. It's almost caked into this story. So that was him on the Joe Pags radio show. But we're not done yet. It's Ted Nugent. He's only going to make it worse. So the guy who called for civility then talked about killing Democrats, liberals, Republicans he doesn't agree with. Let's watch.
Just know that evil, dishonesty, and scam artists have always been around, and that right now they're liberal, they're Democrat, they're rhinos, they're Hollywood, they're fake news, they're media, they're academia, and they're half of our government, at least. So come to that realization. There are rabid coyotes running around. You don't wait till you see one to go get your gun. Keep your gun handy, and every time you see one, you shoot one.
You shoot one. You shoot a liberal. Every time you see one, Democrats say, man, the insecurity on him is hilarious and also dangerous. Remember about the Parkland shooting, they said, oh, the cops didn't do enough. The guy said all the time that he was going to do a shooting. Here's Ted Nugent over and over again saying, well, you shoot him, you shoot him. There's a Republican you don't agree with, you shoot him. There's a Democrat, you shoot him. There's a liberal, you shoot him. Hey, Obama, suck on my gun. Hillary, I'm going to shoot you. Over and over and over again. But in this country, we've lost our minds. So no, when people threaten violence like that, the government is not here to help you. They won't do a damn thing about it because if you went to talk to Nugent about it, he'd crap his pants all over again. And he'd cry and cry, get triggered and go, oh my God, the government is coming for me. Just because I'd say that I'd murdered people, they're trying to take away my guns and my rights. I guarantee you Nugent would cry and cry and cry. That's all he ever does. I mean, that video was the perfect picture of two cowards hanging out together, talking about how tough they are. So now, Ted Nugent is monstrous, we get it, right? But you know that he's on the board of the NRA? He's not just some weirdo, has-been, so-called celebrity. And take a look at this. This is the board of the NRA, and there's Ted Nugent. That's crazy. I mean, look, first of all, you look at that list, it's a murderer's row of criminals. Oliver North should be in prison. Tom Selleck, we did a story about how he's taking water from his neighbors and not paying for it where he lives. Anyway, but Ted Nugent on the board of the NRA. So I guess the NRA now is in favor of murdering moderate Republicans, if they exist, Democrats and liberals. Okay, how come there are no rules for any of the right wing? If a person on the left was part of a giant progressive organization, they were on the board of it, and they called for the murder of Republicans, what do you think would happen? There's no way they would be on that board the next day. But the right wing has no rules, and no one ever enforces it. I guess we're used to them being monsters. Hey, press, can we at least be honest about it? It is not equal. The left wing and the right wing in this country are not equal. One side is monstrous and is proud of it. and no one ever does anything about it. By the way, this monster also hangs out with the president. So here he is in a picture at the White House, shaking hands with President Trump. Could you imagine if Obama had shook hands with an entertainer that talked about murdering Republicans? Fox News would have never stopped talking about it until every Democrat in the country had to apologize 20 times over. But at least we know what they stand for now. That's Ted Nugent, big friend of Donald Trump. If Trump doesn't renounce him, I guess he believes in similar ideas, which, by the way, would we be surprised? Just understand the right wing and the left wing are not the same. On that side are people that relish the violence and look forward to a day where they can actually do that to people on the other side. Of course, when it comes to them, they run and run and run like the cowards that they are. Okay. Was I clear on what a coward Ted Nugent was? I think I was clear, right? Okay, I think we can move forward. All right. That's why he loves to hide behind his gun. Okay. So, let's talk about good news. It turns out that Donald Trump is having a problem with a part of his base. Now, white, older voters helped Donald Trump to get the presidency. They helped the Republican Party overall. But now, an even more narrower portion, white, educated, older voters are starting to turn on the Republicans. So we have that story from Reuters. Nationwide, whites over the age of 60 with college degrees now favor Democrats over Republicans for Congress by a 2-point margin, according to a Reuters Ipsos opinion polling during the first 3 months of the year. Well, you might think, well, Jay, that's not that big a deal. It's just a 2-point margin, and they're educated. I mean, it's not that surprising that more educated voters would go against the party of Donald Trump. But it turns out, no, it is surprising. Let me give you context. During the same period in 2016, that same group favored Republicans for Congress by 10 percentage points. Now, I can do the math for you. That one's not complicated. That's a 12-point swing nationally among a group that is very important for the Republicans to keep. They're in a world of trouble. All right, I'm not the only one saying it. A lot of political scientists and pollsters are saying it. Here's very well-known Larry Sabato saying the real core for the Republicans is white, older white, and if they're losing ground there, they're going to have a tsunami. He's a political scientist at UVA. He went on to say, if that continues to November, they're toast. He's not alone. Here comes Frank Luntz, probably the best known Republican pollster. Here he is on Fox News.
Let's go on record. I think the Republicans are in deep trouble in the House and the Senate as well. If the election were held today, frankly, I think Republicans would lose both.
Look, some people think there's a chance they could lose the House. The Senate is a smaller margin. It's just 51 to 49, but most of the people that are up for re-election happen to be Democrats in this case, and in some states that Trump won. So the conventional wisdom was, nah, the Democrats can't win the Senate back. It's just too hard given the elections in this cycle. Apparently, not hard enough, because here are Republican pollsters, neutral pollsters and political scientists saying they might be toast. Fascinating. Well, how do the Republicans respond to this? Asked about the swing, Republican National Committee Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel cited robust fundraising. Oh, I love that. In other words, man, we're rich. Don't worry about it. We'll just buy the elections. We'll get all those corporations that we gave tax cuts to give us millions upon millions of dollars like they do every time, which is true, they will. And then we'll run deceptive advertising pretending we're for the average guy. So problem solved. And by the way, in the past, that has largely worked. But we have not seen swings of this magnitude before. Look, I'm showing you a demographic that was pro-Trump, pro-Republican Party. In the demographics that were never for Trump, it is disastrous news for the Republicans. They've lost almost all African Americans. They've lost a giant chunk of women, even women who voted for Donald Trump and apparently now regret it. Not all of them, of course, but a big enough percentage that it could easily swing elections. In fact, we've seen elections. Forget the Alabama Senate race because it had Roy Moore in it, and that's a unique case. But in Pennsylvania, a district that was solidly 19 points in favor of the Republicans, gone. God. So it really could be a tsunami here. One more quote from Reuters: the potential impact of any swing to Democrats is magnified given that older educated adults are reliable voters. They also make up a sizable portion of the voting population in many districts where elections are close. And that's just a coincidence, but that is relevant to the elections that are coming up, especially in the House. Now, not only are they an important base for Trump that is now leaving him and the Republican Party, but they also are voters above the age of 60 are the most reliable voters there are. So I wish younger voters were as reliable as them, and perhaps they will be now that they are energized. But losing your most reliable voters is a disastrous situation. So finally, we get to the question of why. Well, it could be that they've just been watching TV, and anyone who has any kind of objectivity and an open mind can look at Trump and go, oh, this is an absolute disaster. I mean, we can talk about all the policy issues, we can cause all the damage that's been done, etc. But even things as simple as the guy not being very bright. I'm just gonna give you one example. So during this is one of my favorite things. During the Easter egg roll that he held at the White House, he didn't even know the name of the White House. Listen, even though he quotes it earlier in the sentence, watch this.
I want to thank the White House Historical Association and all of the people that worked so hard with Melania, with everybody to keep this incredible house or building or whatever you want to call it, because there really is no name for it. It is special.
Yeah, there's a name for it. It's the one you said earlier in the sentence, the White House. Painfully dumb. But yes, that certainly might be a factor, but it turns out there's an even more interesting factor as to why he's losing these specific voters. It turns out it's healthcare. And the number of people who are saying that it's their top priority has recently tripled. Now, why particularly healthcare for these older voters? Okay, I'm gonna go back to Reuters for that part of the explanation. Voters between the ages of 60 and 65 are particularly worried about healthcare, said Bridget Harrison, a political scientist at Montclair State University in New Jersey, because they are paying ever higher private health insurance premiums and are not yet eligible for Medicare. I told you, this is why Medicare for All is polling so well. This is why guys like Beto O'Rourke are running on the platform of Medicare for All in Texas, of all places, to defeat Senator Ted Cruz. So it's because people are going, let us in, let us in. We've heard from our friends, Medicare is excellent. Medicare itself polls at 77%. And now 6 out of 10 Americans saying, let us in. We know Medicare works. Not only is it better coverage, but it's also cheaper. So it turns out the Republicans thought they were geniuses by trying to destroy Obamacare. And by the way, doing the tax cuts, which then also cut Medicare. And then they threatened to cut it even further. So now the Democrats are gonna run ads on that all over the country, and they should, because that is true. And Americans like Medicare. And this whole idea of destroying anything that might get them better coverage, give them lower premiums, and the one thing they were looking forward to, attacking Medicare itself. They were sometimes literally dying to get into Medicare. Turns out has turned off the educated voters that are above 60 and white. It has even gone past that demographic advantage that Donald Trump had. If this holds, all of the pollsters and the political scientists are right. The Republicans are in deep, deep trouble in 2018. All right, we're gonna take a break here. When we come back, arguably the most important story of the day, Syria. But it's not just what you've been seeing in the news. I wanna show you how the military-industrial complex is trying to push President Trump into war. Yes, they're using his stupidity and his ignorance for their advantage, but I'm gonna lay out for you in video form how they're doing it. Don't miss that story when we come back. Thanks for listening to this podcast. You're only halfway through, so hold, stay right here. Just wanna remind you, if you wanna get all 5 segments of the Young Turks commercial free, these are just 2 of them. Every day we do it. So go to tytnetwork.com/join and you get the whole 5 segments, 2 hours, ad free. Do it now. All right, back back on the Young Turks. Cenk and Anna with you guys. I do have a little bit of breaking news on the Michael Cohen story in a second, but I want to read some tweets which I haven't had a chance to. Evil Naughty Smurfette actually writes in on YouTube Super Chat, and a lot of you guys are using it now, and we appreciate that. Saying, when I was younger, there was a kids news show called Nick News with Linda Ellerby. Have you ever thought about doing a similar TYT Kid news show? Did you just see the serious story I did? I'm not sure that that's appropriate for kids, but thank you, we do appreciate it. And then an impronounceable name also on YouTube Super Chat, Roxarox Socks, you get the point, says 100% false flag. Duma was held by rebels who killed 3 of their own leaders during the negotiations with Syria, Russia, and Iran. Motive is for the rebels to lure the US into it. Why would Syria gas itself? Okay. I don't know. I do know that and I don't know that he is right. I definitely know that the timing of that gas attack is massively suspicious. Dances with says, too bad when Trump wants to do the right thing, he gets corrected. Agreed. There's only the right wing pushing people. All right, so let me give you guys the update. So earlier today, the FBI raided the office of Michael Cohen, the personal attorney for Donald Trump. Now Trump has struck back, unsurprising. I think John Iadarola from TYT had tweeted out, countdown to Trump rage in 3, 2, 1, and we have it now. And the attack against law enforcement, once again, by the guy who pretended to be for rule of law. He says, I just heard that they broke into the office of one of my personal attorneys, a good man. They didn't break in, they had a warrant. They were doing their job. And you don't get a warrant unless you've got probable cause of a crime. A judge has to okay that. And judges do not do that lightly, especially for the personal attorney of the president. Apparently they had excellent evidence, but of course he frames it differently. He says it's a disgraceful situation. I've been saying it for a long time. I have this witch hunt constantly going on. Again, calling it a witch hunt. And he then further says, and unsurprising again with the rhetoric of Donald Trump, it's an attack on our country. It's an attack on what we all stand for. No, that's our country working like it's supposed to. We're supposed to be in a democracy where no one is above the law. And it looks like at a bare minimum, the Stormy Daniels payoff of $130,000 violated either campaign financing laws, your lawyer cannot just give $130,000 to your campaign, or violated tax laws, he can't just gift you $130,000 and not declare that in his taxes or your taxes. So they were well within their rights to do what they're supposed to do, which is enforce the law. And of course, that's what's driving the criminal Donald Trump crazy.
Yeah, maybe don't cheat on your wife with other women and then pay those women hush money right before the election. How about that? How about taking some personal responsibility for your own actions and stop pretending like you're some sort of victim? That was hush money paid to a woman a couple days prior to the election taking place.
And as I said earlier in the show, Anna, you're absolutely right. And if Trump had actually just taken personal responsibility, to your point, and said, look, I gave the money to Michael Cohen because I wanted the problem to go away. He could have easily said it's not true, but I didn't want to hurt my chances. In that case, he can give his own campaign money and it would not have necessarily been illegal. But he's a pathological liar and he's a man-child who refuses to take any responsibility for any of his actions. So instead, last week he said, it wasn't me. I don't know anything about that money. That's Michael Cohen's problem. Throwing your own lawyer under the bus when he knows all that information about you, probably a bad idea. So now when the FBI actually raids his office to find evidence based on a legal warrant, then you throw a fit like at the child that you are. Well, I don't think A, it's gonna help you very much, and B, there's one thing you're not, and that is for the rule of law. You hate law and order, and you attack law enforcement nonstop, as you did again today. Saying that American law enforcement is attacking our own country, basically, is what he's saying. Imagine if a liberal president had done that. Fox News would go nuts. Blue lives matter. But when Trump does it, yes, sir, absolutely, sir. Top law enforcement in the country is attacking us, sir. It must be some sort of deep state action, sir. Whatever other conspiracy theory you'd like, sir. And that's the world we live in today. Okay, now on to other stories.
All right. Late night comedian Jimmy Kimmel has apologized to the LGBT community following a tweet that he sent out in response to Sean Hannity And this was all in the middle of a feud, an ongoing feud between the two that began last week when Kimmel had made a joke about Melania Trump's accent on his own program. Now, again, it all started with a joke about Melania's accent that was made by a comedian on the comedian's late night show. Hannity didn't like it, and his response to Kimmel was rather harsh. But keep in mind, Hannity is not a comedian, and here's what he had to say in response to Kimmel making fun of Melania's accent.
Brutal. Liberal Jimmy Kimmel making fun of the First Lady of the United States and her involvement in the White House Easter egg roll, even her accents. Jimmy, you're a despicable disgrace. Hey, Mr. Kimmel, that's her fifth language. How many do you speak?
So he was outraged by it, and he went on the warpath, digging up old clips of Kimmel in order to attack him as a so-called pervert. We'll get to that in just a second. But I just want to comment on Hannity being incredibly offended at the First Lady getting made fun of or having jokes made about her. Because Hannity would never say disparaging things about the First Lady. Or Fox News would never say disparaging things about the First Lady. Oh, wait a minute, Fox News had nonstop negative commentary about Michelle Obama when she was the First Lady. In fact, here was a clip that really stood out to me during the Obama administration. Take a look at what Keith Abloh had to say about Michelle Obama when she was trying to encourage kids to get healthy and be active.
Michelle Obama is so like the Duchess when she speaks
kind of
about. She is.
And
by the way,
how well
they're
can
not
she
just
be eating? She needs to drop a few. I mean, I'm telling you, like, no,
you
let's
did
be
not
honest. No, listen.
We're
taking nutrition advice from
Are we on a 7-second delay?
Taking nutrition advice from. I want nutrition advice from.
Michelle Obama. She needs to lose the
Well, no, let's be honest. Like, I mean, there's no French fries happening. That's all kale and carrots. I don't buy it.
Okay, so let's go ahead and attack the First Lady when the First Lady happens to be Michelle Obama and she's trying to help kids get healthy. That's fine. But what about Hannity? Did Hannity ever say anything negative about Michelle Obama? Here's his reaction to a rap video that she put together in an effort to encourage kids to go to college.
But a dream is just a dream to let you go, huh? Einstein put it in time, here's a flow chart. Naturally, it won't happen magically, but you can change fantasy into reality so dramatically. You wanna fight crime, you should go to college. If you wanna write rhymes, fill your head with knowledge. If you wanna stare at grass, don't go to college. But for everything else, you should go to college.
I don't know, maybe it's just me, but when older people try and look like they're hip and cool and young, it just doesn't work for me. Anyway, does this prove to you that the Obamas are completely out of touch?
Later on in his commentary, he made a point about how America is under attack by radical Islam and the First Lady is making rap videos.
So he has also called Michelle Obama bitter and angry, made fun of Michelle Obama's clothes. He also wrote, it's been suggested that one of Obama's voluntary relationships is more revealing of his radicalism, anti-Americanism, and anti-capitalism than all of the others, his choice of marital partner. So he has viciously attacked the First Lady under Obama over and over again. But now when Jimmy Kimmel makes a joke about the First Lady of Trump, he's like, oh, I am so offended. Who would ever be uncivil enough to attack a First Lady? Sean Hannity, as usual, a gargantuan hypocrite, liar, person with bad intent. And you think we don't have access to your own books and to the videos you have on Fox News? But he does it all the time, and there's two different standards, which unfortunately is exactly the point of this story, as Kimmel begins to back away, and Hannity doesn't have to, because a pig likes mud. And so he's gonna roll and roll and roll around in it.
A pig likes mud and other pigs also like mud. So there are very different standards for people who make these types of comments on the right versus people who make these types of comments on the left, and we'll get to that. Now, Hannity further attacked Kimmel by bringing up old clips from The Man Show, which Kimmel was the co-host of. These are clips from 1999 to 2004, and apparently Hannity had sent out 30 tweets about this between April 6th and April 7th, okay? So let's go to graphic 55. He drew on videos of Kimmel on his earlier show, The Man Show, in which the comedian invited women to feel his crotch. Hannity used the clip to accuse Kimmel of being Harvey Weinstein Jr. He also played one clip where Kimmel asked women on the street to guess what was in his pants and made suggestive comments. Another where Kimmel interviewed women about their feelings on penis size while wearing a protruding object in his pants. So you get the sense of what the show was like, but it was a satirical show. It was meant to poke fun at men's behavior and how ridiculous that behavior could be. It was not done in a serious way to sexually harass women on camera. But nonetheless, it doesn't matter if Kimmel was a comedian, doesn't matter what the context of the show is, doesn't matter if it was satirical. Hannity is gonna go ahead and attack him anyway. Now, fast forward to what Kimmel said in response to all of this, that it got him into quite a bit of trouble. So he had said something about, don't worry, just keep tweeting. You'll get back on top, or does Trump prefer you on bottom? Either way, keep your chin up, big fella, XO. So the LGBT community, at least some members of the LGBT community felt that that was a homophobic response. And Kimmel was criticized pretty aggressively as a result of that. And following that criticism, Kimmel apologized specifically to the LGBT community and said that he no longer wished to engage in this feud with Hannity because of the vitriol that it's leading to. He said that he did have fun with our back and forth. The level of although he had fun with the back and forth, the level of vitriol from all sides, mine and me included, does nothing good for anyone and in fact is harmful to our country. So there we are.
Okay, lots more on this. So to be fair, Kimmel had also said, when your clown makeup rubs off on Trump's ass, does it make his butt look like a creamsicle? Interesting and perhaps fair question, done in jest, but some people didn't warm to that joke. So, look, it's one thing if the LGBT community says, hey, look, when you're making fun of someone, don't use reference to gay sex to do it because it has a demeaning aspect to it. I think it's a really interesting and fair point to make, and it makes you have a conversation about why do we say things like that? Why do we have phrases that seem to, again, demean people in that community? Okay, but when Sean Hannity pretends to be aggrieved, really, Sean, you're standing up for the LGBT community and that's why you're worried? Really, you're standing up for all first ladies? You're not standing up for any of those people. Who are you kidding? So all you're standing up for is your buddy, Donald Trump. So, so Kimmel backs down, and my guess is that he backed down for a couple of reasons. One is, man, I didn't mean to, get people angry in the LGBT community. They're my friends, and I certainly didn't mean it in any bad way. And I was just trying to have fun with Hannity, who was a really, really bad guy. Another reason might be keeping it real. Executives come and talk to him at ABC and go, hey, listen, we don't want to piss off all of our conservative viewers. It's the one thing when you were talking about your personal experience with your kid, but now you're in a feud with one of the top conservatives in the country, and it might affect advertisers. Now, those are all the pressures that come with both being successful, in the case of Jimmy Kimmel, and being a decent person, where you actually care about other people's feelings. Hannity doesn't have much of those pressures. First of all, Rupert Murdoch made it clear, the owner of Fox News, that he thought it was the wrong idea for executives to back away from Laura Ingraham when advertisers started to peel away, sending a message, I don't care. Let our hosts say whatever terrible thing they want to say and back them up. We are not going to back down, okay? So his boss has got his back, so he doesn't have financial pressure. And then in terms of decency, he has no moral core or center. He doesn't care about offending Kimmel or Michelle Obama or gay people or anything else. So he says, oh yeah, I'm gonna come and double down and triple down on tonight's show. And he's going to. And he keeps calling Kimmel a sick, twisted, creepy, perverted weirdo.
Because Kimmel was the public figure who vociferously supported Roy Moore, who was accused of child molestation, right? It was Kimmel who did that? Or was it Hannity? No, I'm done. Listen, the part of this story that actually frustrates me the most is the standards of speech that we have on the left versus the standards of speech that they have on the right. On the right, there are no standards. They will lie and do character assassinations in order to destroy those that they disagree with. They will make things up in order to destroy those they disagree with. They will do whatever it takes in order to basically ruin the careers and the lives of their opponents. And by the way, they'll even peddle conspiracy theories against minors who just experienced their classmates and their teachers get gunned down before their very eyes. But then on the left, we're policing what comedians say. We're policing what people can say on college campuses when they're giving speeches. We have ridiculous standards for one another. First of all, let's take a quick look at Kimmel. What is Kimmel's history when it comes to the LGBT community? Has he been terrible to the LGBT community? By the way, is top and bottom only unique to gay sex? Or does that happen in heterosexual sex as well? I mean, I didn't see his response to Hannity as something that was meant to be homophobic. I think intent matters. I think who it's coming from matters. And unfortunately, we're too busy debating about whether or not it makes sense and whether or not it's acceptable to punch a Nazi, as opposed to having a look at the bigger picture and the bigger problem. That's the reason why we keep losing allies on the left. That's the reason why people like Sean Hannity and those on the right are able to successfully determine the narrative of every political discussion that happens in the country right now. So we need to have a real honest discussion about what's worth criticizing, who's worth destroying, and how we can actually move forward in going after the right wing and the destructive rhetoric that they're actually pushing for.
Okay, so a couple of things to back up what you're saying. Chelsea Handler also got in trouble when she tweeted out, Jeff Sessions is definitely a bottom. When asked to apologize, she said no. She said, you know who else is a bottom? I am. So what? And so I have to confess that I kind of like that attitude. As to who started this fight and the vitriol in the first place, look, Jimmy Kimmel made a joke about the First Lady. His job is to make jokes. But he made a joke about her accent. My family members have accents. I joke around about their accents. I don't think it's that big a deal at all. Okay, fine, you're a little offended by it. I get it. Hannity's a snowflake. But what did Hannity do? He struck back with calling him a despicable disgrace and, quote, an ass clown. Now, the right wing, who pretends to care about civility and not cursing, Eric Trump the other day hilariously on TV said he can't believe people are cursing about his dad. His dad curses nonstop. Okay. Anyway, he said he called Kimmel an ass clown, and Kimmel responded with, "If I'm an ass clown, you're the whole ass circus." See, that's funny. That's like the creamsicle comment. I'm sorry, it's funny. And that's what his job is, okay? And so, but the right wing that pretends to care about values and morality doesn't care about the terrible things that Sean Hannity says, doesn't care about his cursing. But the minute the left wing strikes back at all, a comedian making a joke, which is what he's supposed to do, making fun of the powerful, because Hannity is connected to the president, it doesn't get any more powerful than that. That's exactly his job title. We on the left go, oh my God, you're not allowed to do that. We have to disarm everything, right? So finally, I loved Kimmel's parting shot here. At the very end of his long statement, apologizing to the LGBT community and saying he's going to bring down the rhetoric, he said, I am hopeful that Sean Hannity will learn from this too and continue his newly found advocacy for women, immigrants, and first ladies, and that he will triumph in his heroic battle against sexual harassment and perversion. See, that is also very funny, very right, and we have to be able to distinguish between making an important, although I would say more minor point about saying, hey, let's make sure we criticize these guys in the right way, and monsters on the other side who are okay with Roy Moore sleeping or trying to sleep with 14-year-olds, sexually harassing and assaulting 14-year-olds, 16-year-olds. By the way, Sean Hannity also defending the sexual harassment that Roger Ailes and Bill O'Reilly did on a massive scale, let alone defending the sexual harassment and assault of President Trump. You have to understand, not only the mainstream media, but us on the left, we have to understand those two things are not equal.
We got to take a quick break. Let's do that. And when we come back, one of my favorite videos, possibly ever, of Sarah Huckabee Sanders. It's really good. Come right back.
Thanks for watching what I hope was a lovely edition of the Young Turks. Now, you know that is 2 of the 5 segments that we do because that's free. We want to have you support independent media and come watch the whole show that we do every day. That's 5 segments overall, no ads at all. That's at tytnetwork.com/join. Come become a member. Thanks for watching either way. Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.